And we are live. Finally got it going. So if you have was waiting for us to be on, I want to say apologize for our lateness, but we were again having some technical issues. But here we are, and I'm excited about being here with Goma, the one and only. Goma, how are you doing today?
I am good, Kingsley. How are you?
You're fantastic, thank you. One of those days, it's been a hectic kind of day, but here we are, and I'm excited about answering a few questions. Actually, one or two questions here in our live
hmm
broadcast today.
hmm Yes, me too. I'm excited. It's sometimes Mondays can seem pretty rough.
Yeah, I mean it really
hmm
was one of those days, but here we are, and I'm trying to see if I can see it showing up on our
Yeah, I'm not
group.
seeing it either.
It's showing that it's on in Facebook and also in also
Oh yeah.
doing it on YouTube as well. So
Okay.
again, let me just see if it's on YouTube. Again, pardon us for our trying to figure things out here. So um
Okay, I see it now.
oh it's okay. Oh yeah,
I
so
had
it's
to
live.
grant.
Oh,
I had to grant access, I guess.
oh okay. Okay. Right. So I'm wondering, it's okay. There it goes.
Okay,
Okay.
somebody wants to comment. It says, um, let's
Okay.
see if we
Good.
can give him permission.
So I think once they're in the group, they can comment based upon our what they see and hear us
Right,
discussing.
right.
But if they're in the group, then they should be able to, because they're already in the group, comment in the group.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So then these people are in the group already.
Yes. So
Okay.
I think we can go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. So I guess once if there's a question, we can because we can also manage the comments, so we can also see the comments first ahead of time before we
Fantastic.
actually see them.
Fantastic.
So I got a
Nice.
comment here. Okay, great.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so if thank you for again your patience. Let us know where you're watching from. If you're on live with us right here, where you're watching
Mhm.
from. If you're watching the replay, then you can just type in replay at some point. But if you're watching live, we just would love to hear and see where you are watching from. So we have someone says here that I am
I'm
watching.
watching. Nice.
Another user says here that sorry, and they said I'm seeing and hearing
I'm
you. Oh,
hearing
thank you
you.
for letting us know that. Appreciate that.
Great. Great.
So we know that's really going to happen. So good to see those
Awesome.
two. So today we are again we apologize. We're going to go right in here and we're
Mhm.
going to open with a question. Now these are questions that have come in that's come in asked on a platform that I'm on, and every now and then people ask different questions wanting answers, and I thought maybe it's a great place for us to answer these questions. And so this one question here came in from a wife who says, how do I win back my husband? That's a question she started off with. She says,
Mhm.
he says his, I'm sorry, that's the wrong question. Take two on this. The question is,
Okay.
what should I do if my husband doesn't love me? That's her thing. What should I do if my husband doesn't love me? We only
Mm,
talk when it's necessary, and he always find it irritating even if I ask something normally. I can't
mm,
leave him because of my son. So
mm.
how to stay in this marriage? How do I stay in this marriage? So again, obviously she wants to stay in this marriage, but her issue is she said we only talk when it's necessary, and he always find it irritating even if I ask something normally. And what should I do if my husband doesn't love me? So she says three things. She feels he doesn't love her. She feels that when she talks to him, he gets very irritated very easily. And she says she feels like sometimes she's like stuck in her mind because I can't leave him because of my son. But then the question at the end was, how do I stay in this marriage? So you want to take a stab on starting off on that?
Sure. Now that's an interesting and also a challenging one because it seems like what I'm hearing is there is there's almost no friendship in
Mm,
the relationship at this point, right? And everything she says is irritating him, right?
mm,
They can't really have a conversation. It seems that there's no friendship. So my suggestion to her would really be to start from a curious place,
mm,
right? Um,
mm,
and maybe starting more with something pleasant that she remembers about the relationship,
mm,
and say, I remember so and so time when we used to do XYZ, and I really miss that. I wonder
mm,
what happened to us,
hmm,
right?
mm.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Mm-hmm.
like a curiosity aspect. I do wonder if I can, because you said something
Mm-hmm.
very, very, very important. I don't want us to skip over that because you said that it seems like there is a lack of friendship. How,
Yeah.
so I mean, I think that's a very vital part we don't want to skip over.
Mm-hmm.
If you could take a few minutes to talk about why is that so important and how can couples establish this friendship, especially if, like you said, maybe at this point in their relationship, if we don't have the context as to how long they've been married,
Mm-hmm.
but it's how important is that? And what if a couple feel like they want to become friends or one wants
Mm-hmm.
to? What may be the way to go about establishing that? Because it sounds like that's very important.
Yeah. Well, let's start with how it's important first, because I think so. The Gottmans, John and Julie Gottman, those are one of our marriage researchers. They're pioneers in the
Yeah.
field of marriage research. One of the things that they stressed is that friendship is the bedrock of a happy marriage, right? In fact, they say a deep friendship is the bedrock of a happy marriage. And here's why. When we are friends with someone, there's a certain level of what they call fondness and admiration that we have for that person, right? Maybe I'm friends with Kingsley because I admire how Kingsley is a godly man and how he puts God at the center of his marriage. So that's something that I like about Kingsley. What it does is it brings a certain level of respect into that relationship, right? There's that admiration, there's that fondness. So what's going to happen is I am going to then treat Kingsley in a certain way that's going to also allow Kingsley to be open with me, to be receptive towards me. So if we don't have those things, we're left with a friendship with or with a relationship, kind of like what she's describing there. When the person talks, we get irritated. When they are trying to connect, we move away from that person. We're not interested in bonding or connecting with that person, and that is a sign that there's a problem in the relationship.
I really love that because I think that it's interesting that that dynamic you're describing about the friendship and how important that is because I think you're right, and you picked up on that very quickly because I think that I have friends that I have been in long-term relationship with some friends, and we have our disagreement. We have times we don't
Mhm,
agree and say things eye to eye. But what I do
mhm,
find is that we tend to then find a way to still be friends and continue the relationship, not wanting
mhm,
to somehow quit because we have a disagreement. And so I think that bedrock of the relationship is how good, how strong is that friendship that they have. And if they don't have that, then I think maybe it's something to begin, like you were describing. The curiosity question could be remembering some things about the relationship that could be a connecting point, like you described,
yeah,
right?
yeah, that's
Mm,
correct. And that's where it all starts. It starts with that friendship. It starts with liking to be around the person, liking to be in the person's company, and that's the kind of fondness we're talking about, right? And when that is gone, as a matter of fact, one of the things that the Gottmans argue is that is the only time as a therapist that you should actually consider not continuing therapy with that couple. If the fondness and admiration are gone, there's usually not much hope, right?
mm,
So it sounds like they're in a very difficult spot there. So I would really
mhm.
start from a curious place. I would start again trying to explore what we've had as a couple and where that kind of disappeared to, starting there.
And I agree with that. I think, it's interesting. I was with a client, I think recently, and I again I went to this place of encouraging them to start this curiosity, right?
Mhm,
Uh, be curious. And I think the question could be, like you said, she could make a reference and become curious about possibly what it is she's experiencing. Because as she said in her question, it says that he finds her conversation, or when she tries to speak to him, and in her words, normally he gets irritated. Now again, I wonder, my first thing I also think, in addition to what you're saying, Goma, is who decides what's normal? Because in his mind,
Correct.
what if she may not realize that she might be an irritating, and whatever she may be, the Bible speaks about how, and then again, this is just a reference, right, as Solomon says
Mhm,
about that wife, that she can sound set drip drip drip, and
mhm,
it becomes irritating to the husband. And so
mhm,
maybe she may want to ask some questions as well. you know what is it about what I do that seem in it, and be, I would say, stay factual. It seems like whenever I come and talk to you about something, you know, you and state what he does, because she labels it as irritating, and I don't think, if he's not, doesn't feel like he's is irritable, that could also create another problem. So I wonder if she could say something to the degree as, you know, it seems like whenever I try to talk to you, you turn away from me, or you walk away, or you get on your phone, and I'm just wondering, because again, whatever her description of irritability is,
mhm.
that could probably be, again, something that she imposed upon the relationship, that could be an issue as well. What's your thoughts on that?
I think you're making some really good points there. I always am cautious with the use statements just because they can really trigger a
Yes.
lot more conflict sometimes when you're trying to avoid conflict. So really, I think, but I do agree with you, exploring, right? Like I said,
Hmm.
being curious and going back to, we had something really good that I'm missing. Try to
Mm.
say it with yourself, right? We have something really, really good in this relationship, and I'm missing that. And when I try to connect and we're not able to lock in, it makes me feel really sad. It makes me scared. It makes me all of those things that you're experiencing. Because what that's going to do is open that window for some kind of connection, at least a place to start, right? Because again, you're right. She could be misreading his communication completely. She could be saying that he's irritated when he's not. Maybe he's afraid. Maybe he's not irritated. Maybe he's more afraid to talk because he's unsure of where it's going to go.
Mm. Someone made a comment here. I want to put up on the screen, and it says, "I feel she might," and I think you just said it. Your words. You just said the very thing this person
Hmm.
is saying. "I feel she might be interpreting his reaction as irritating, when actually she should try to figure out what is her questions or statements to him." And a great person can give an example. Say, you don't ask someone who is holding a spoon if it's a spoon that is in their hand. So I think the first part of what the question, my reading is, this person is
Hmm.
saying that maybe she might be interpreting his reaction as irritating, which I was saying earlier, that she labeled it as such. And whenever
Hmm.
we label something, that it's our meaning we're imposing on that situation,
Hmm.
and if that person doesn't agree, that it creates another area of conflict.
Hmm.
And so if she could pull back from the label that she imposed on the conversation as irritating, and that this person was saying, what is it that she sees whenever she tries to approach him? And like you're saying, is probably to say, hey, I'm just curious, like you were saying earlier, to say, maybe she might be doing something
Hmm.
that he may have spoken to her about before, and she's just pushing beyond and trying to get her way. We don't know, because we don't have the full context, but we're just going to speak to the fact that there's some things that she experienced,
Hmm.
that she uses the word. She say, if he finds, he always, and I guess that's a key word, he always, which we know that, we put the word always in place, that there's a times when I'm sure he's not that way. So that's another thing I would also mention, that
Hmm.
that word always would kind of also overshadow the times he may not be that way. And if he is not, then what um is he at those times? Because if always right, he's not always irritated. So and say, how do I stay in this marriage? So you're describing as, and it's curious question, probably
Mm-hmm.
develop a friendship and
Mm-hmm.
in the relationship. Would that be what you had said so far?
Yeah, and I think, even let's talk about the always, right?
Yeah,
That
that's a very
sounds
good point.
also it sounds also like a wife who's panicking, right? So
Mm,
the minute we start hearing in marriage work, when somebody is saying, "Well, you're always doing this, you're always," that's usually a sign of panic. That person is afraid that this is just going to be an ongoing thing that's never going. At some point, I'm afraid of where it could get to. So
mm,
they're trying to bring to this person's attention. We're not connecting, and we haven't connected repeatedly, right?
mm,
But we
hmm.
want to really be careful with the always, because all that person may hear is criticism.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
I wonder if she's using it here in the question, if she is, if she probably may not be using it to him, like say, you always are irritated by me. I can never seem to
Mm-hmm.
get your, so she may use those
Mm-hmm.
absolute terms or universal
Right.
terms, always, never, and which also
Mm-hmm.
then leads to possibly the reason why she may not be able to connect in in the way she wants to. And because if
Mm-hmm.
it's been stated here that way, I would not be too far from thinking that maybe she does use
Mm-hmm.
that with him, and he may
Mm-hmm.
hear that, like you just said, I can never do anything right. Always being judged and questioned, and everything I do, I never get that. So he may also said, I guess I can never do anything right. So why even want to then act in a way that doesn't come across as being, as she says, irritable?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, why try?
Why
Right?
try?
If every time you come to me, it's a problem, and that's how you feel, then he may already feel defeated, and he may be thinking, what's left for me to do? She already has this notion, or this idea about me, that this is how I am. So
Hmm.
again, I'm really just going to go back when you talk about how they can connect and how they can start off. I would just really say, go back to all of the good things that you remember about the relationship. Bring those things up more. Sometimes we stay stuck in the problems, and so it's hard for us to come out of that mud. Yeah, the mud is so heavy, it's thick, that we really can't break through. But if we focus on what's working, I love the way we connect at the end of the day. I love the way we will go for a walk sometimes. I miss our laughter together. I miss the playing that we did. I miss
Hmm.
our intimate time. If you go back to those good memories, then that person has somewhere to bond with you on. They can
Hmm.
start there with you, and you can begin to build from there.
That's a very good. I agree with that. 100%. I think that's a good point you're making. That, and those who are watching and probably will watch a replay, I think it's so true that um, how making those statements and referring to the times that maybe in the relationship when she experienced, let's call those good things or good times, and maybe even reference those, and even I would even think this as you were talking there, Goma, because when I the question that she said, um, she began with the premise that in her mind, her husband doesn't love her, right? She said, what should I do if my husband doesn't love me? So again, if she is from the place of desperation and wanting to connect and feeling like she's losing this relationship, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe he feels that what's irritating to him is that he probably in his own way is showing her how much he loves her, because again, the whole idea of love language, and maybe he's not speaking her language as she would like
Mm-hmm.
to, and because she's not receiving that, she overlooked what he's doing, and possibly he'd never get any acknowledgement or credit for at least trying to do the part in his mind that speak to her, his care and his love for her. So I
Mm-hmm.
wonder if that also becomes why he may be acting that way. And again, she's the one who used the word irritable, so I mean whatever he was
Mm-hmm.
acting, but I wonder if out of desperation, because she feels she's losing this marriage or losing him, because she said he doesn't love me, and maybe she's harping upon that to create this love connection,
Mm-hmm.
which for some men, I mean, and you've experienced that in some way, shape, and form in the many years we've been doing counseling. And I remember I've seen this many times. I've seen this dance, this movie so many times where,
Mhm.
a husband will say, you know, I don't know what else to do.
Mhm.
I have done this, I've done that, and I don't get any credit for that. But the moment I don't do whatever she wants, then I hear how I haven't done this, I haven't done that, and it gets
Mhm.
so upset. I've seen that movie many times, and I
Mhm.
wonder if she is overlooking and possibly not even acknowledging the times he has listened to her. He has, shown her the way that love in the manner as how he thinks he should love her. Doesn't make
Mhm.
it right. He needs to love her the way she wants to be
Right.
loved. So we know that's true because we love is based upon how we get experience love is how we experience love. And I'm the one who says, when you do that, I feel loved, and I'm the one who determines that, right? So
Mhm.
I believe that you need to adjust, the spouse need to adjust for that, and that's another story. But the point is, I wonder if she is overlooking the things that he may be doing, and so he gets to a point where it's just irritating to him to hear
Mhm.
her asking questions about the same thing over and over again, when in his mind he probably feel like he's been doing those things and not even getting acknowledgement for it.
You make a good point. It's possible. It's very possible that he's doing his best, and that he feels like he could also be a person who doesn't really like confrontation, you
Mm,
know. And
yeah.
if he doesn't like confrontation and he's getting this you always, you never, situation, that might make him shut down completely. So yeah, you're right.
Hmm. And I
Hmm.
guess, and maybe because of that, when he's shutting down, or maybe he just doesn't want to deal with that, and maybe trying to avoid confrontation, right? His conflict avoidance, then
Hmm.
maybe she labeled that as being irritable. He's been he is irritated by her, and maybe she's misreading what it is, and so maybe, like as you said earlier, from curiosity to really know what's really going on here. Maybe again, he feels like he can never quote win, even though that's that we don't recommend winning in the relationships. I mean, individually, the relationship, yes, it should always win, but as individuals in the relationship, it's not a win lose, because if you win something, the other person's going to lose, and that never ends well. But I
Right.
wonder if he is frustrated because of what's happening in the relationship, and that's why what she sees, and she
Hmm.
sees it as him being feeling irritated by her.
It could be that, and let's not, I have to also go on the other side and see this from her perspective. It could
Hmm.
also be that maybe he really is distant from her. Maybe he really
Hmm.
is cold, you know, and because it sounds like she's tried, because she's
Hmm.
saying, I have to stay because of the child, which is really a
Hmm.
difficult place to be, right? We
Yes.
can't miss that too. She did say that. I have to stay because we have this kid together. At the same time, we know that's not the healthiest thing for the child to observe,
Hmm.
right? So she may have really, really tried, and he's just completely shut down. And that's why I'm
Hmm.
saying I would come more from a place of the good times that we've had, good memories. Because if he's shutting down and he's cold, that's also a very painful place for her to be in, right? So you could see how she would then begin to really protest and say, hear me, hear me, hear me, hear me. Let's connect, begging for that. Uh, However, it's not going to be productive. So just starting from a place of, this is what we've had, this is what I'm desiring for us. How can we get there?
Hmm. Which answered her question towards the end when she said, "How do I?" The question she asked was, which I think was which is very to me reflected that she really wants to do what's in the right
Mhm.
for the marriage. So how do I
Mhm.
stay in this marriage? So her heart is
Right.
to stay in this marriage. This person from Facebook also mentioned what we just described. Her interpretation of what love is might be different from his interpretation of love, which we described earlier,
Mhm.
and we do agree with that. Yes, it could be a different interpretation of what love is, but does not mean that they should not find a common ground and
Right.
to express what love is, because it's having different interpretation is one thing, but
Mhm.
having that by itself without trying to figure out how do we communicate that to the other person the way they want to be loved is really not helpful to just have different interpretation of that. But
Right.
I think her question though would imply that she really wants to stay in this marriage, and she's doing the best she can. But I think what you mentioned, we've given her some good suggestions as to what she could do to stay in this marriage. I think if the curious questions, making reference to the times that were good experiences in the relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and I would just also recommend is, um, of course, we know that we don't want to overlook this very important aspect of it. We don't know if they are faith based, and that's what's mentioned in that. But prayer, is it pray for your husband, pray for your relationship, which we don't want to overlook as a great weapon in this whole um, journey. But I also was thinking as well too that you know you mentioned about how was I going with my thoughts here? How do I stay in this marriage? She said the curiosity question, the friendship reference. Oh, I would want to also recommend that if she have not yet done this, is to go on a journey. I would just I call it this way, a gratitude journey,
Mm-hmm.
because when we are in a place of seeing the negatives and what is not being
Yeah.
done and how he's not loving her and how he's always been irritable, then what she overlooks is when are the times what could she find through the lens of gratitude, because there might be some things that if she begin to look at what can I be grateful for and start with that, it may shift what she sees, because I think is I forget who said it's that if we change the way we look at things, the things we look at changes, right? The way if we change the way we look at things, the things we look at changes. And I think the whole idea of perspective. So if she look at it possibly through the lens of take a season and look at it through the lens of gratitude, what might she see different about what she now sees as irritation?
Mm-hmm. That's right. Finding things to be appreciative of, finding things again, going back to things that you enjoyed, highlighting those things. One of the things we're looking for when we're doing marriage therapy, as you know, is can this person find something within this relationship that they truly enjoy together, right?
Yeah.
Can they find some memories, some good memories here that they can pull from to at least
Hmm.
sustain the relationship? Right.
Mm.
So yeah, I think the gratitude, the finding fond memories, all of those things are going to really, really help the
Yeah.
relationship. I think also, stepping back a little, because when she says everything I ask him, he gets irritated. Of course, we don't know what his perspective is on this. We're going based on what she's sharing with us. So pulling back a little is also helpful, right?
Mm.
Sometimes we don't want to protest too much,
Yeah.
because too much protesting can sometimes overwhelm people. So stepping back, going into prayer, like you said, going into silence, and just giving that person space to figure things out sometimes is also helpful.
I agree 100%. Sometimes just stepping back from where we are, we can see things that are a bit different, and one of
Mhm.
the things you just came to my mind when you're talking, because you kind of raised this up earlier. You mentioned that you re-emphasized the fact that she mentioned about staying there for her son, and which tells me that she really wants the family to be together, and she doesn't want to break up a family because she know her son will probably be, of course, will suffer. The collateral damage is more so the child, and I wonder if she could look at her son. I know that the son is a product of both of them, and the person she loves, who is her son, and recognize that and begin to thank God the fact that she was able to make this son with this man, and she loves this person that has emerged as a result of their combined effort, and look at that. And when she sees her son and begin to use that as a reminder to God, thank you for my husband, who we were able to create this wonderful human being that you've gifted us with. And
Mhm.
sometimes if she start with that, because it's a it's um, it's her joy and I guess pride and joy to look at her son. I'm thinking because she really wants to fight for the overall
Mhm.
welfare of her son. So like if we
Mhm.
start with a place where we know she already um, would definitely say a yes to, and say, what
Mhm.
can you find about your son that you thank God for your husband, that you were able to together create this child, this human being, and maybe she could see some qualities in her son that reminds her that what she loves about her son, truly also may have come from her husband.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good point. I like it.
Hmm.
I think all of that would be very helpful. Mm-hmm.
Mm,
That's a really good
yeah.
point, and maybe pushing it even further and saying, "What? How would my son like to see the two of us?" You
Oh,
know, and then
oh.
trying to bring about that kind of attitude in the home, because again, it's
Mm,
important for the child. It's not just about being together. It's about
mm.
what kind of atmosphere you're creating for this child, because you could be together, but all he sees is just, conflict and fighting and disregard for each other and not a lot of admiration. And that is going to put him in a bad space emotionally also. So maybe even
Very
thinking
good
about
point.
how would my son like to see the two of us, and then trying to cultivate that kind of environment. Hmm.
I love that. I love that idea. That yeah, I think that's really well said. Because I think sometimes people who are in and say, I'm just here for the children's sake, and they overlook this very intentional, specific, deliberate act of looking at the child, like you're saying, how can we live our lives? Because again, sometimes what I say, you're an adult, you have figured out, you've lived your life. This child, God has given to you, and He's going to hold us accountable of how we raise our children. Because the Bible
Yes.
says for us, we ought to steward them in a way, because they don't belong to us; they belong to God. And if we're
Hmm.
going to steward our children in a way that we give account to God, that is also a very important part in how we go about parenting and on our relationship. I think it's a very. I think sometimes our society and what we've seen have minimized the importance, or on this whole idea, and but also I think is I would say diluted what God intends for children in a home. And I believe God is very serious about this whole idea that kids are a gift from God, and
Hmm.
it's given to us to take care of that gift in a way. And when we hurt kids, like the Bible says, if you cause a child to be offended, it's better for you for a millstone to be hung around your neck. So God is very serious about this whole thing. And I think we have lost the seriousness of what it means to be um, given a place to be a father and a mother to a child. I think we have kind of seen the dilution of that over time, and I,
Hmm.
I worry that at some point we're going to have to give account for that. I'm thinking from a biblical standpoint.
Hmm. Good point you make. No, I agree. I mean, they're entrusted to us, right? And
Hmm.
so part of it is we're responsible for their developing minds, and
Mm,
making sure that we're doing things that are going to fertilize that, those minds. And
yeah.
if we're not fertilizing the mind, then that's a problem. So I,
Mm,
I think I agree, whenever we're stuck in a relationship and we're saying, well, we're just going to be here for the children, then we need to make sure the children are the priority. So then our behaviors need to all align so that those kids are in a place where they have emotional safety.
amen. Wow.
Mhm.
Well said. Well, I know we can't start late today, and I know we
Yeah.
can, and so we're going to wrap things up here because and this was one question. So imagine we have a whole host of questions. So we're going to make this promise to you. And again, thank you for those who have watched live, and then those who are
Yeah.
watching replay. Again, make sure you put a replay in the comments if you watch a replay. But we are going to make this promise to you that now we've figured out, how to
Mhm.
broadcast this live into the group and so on. We're gonna be able to start on time, and we
Mhm.
will just about 35 minutes or so we'll finish as we normally do. So we
Right.
look forward to that. Again, we're going to be here on Monday at 6 p.m.
Mhm.
Eastern time, and so I
Mhm.
want to invite you back to join us at these. And again, thank you for those who have make comments. We really appreciate that, and some really
Mhm.
very helpful comments that were made. So thank you to
Mhm.
all of you who made comments, and truly appreciate that.
Mhm.
The only person that I see here with a was Through the Valley, and I think that's Diana. Let's
Oh,
say,
okay.
yeah, and the others are just
A
Facebook
colleague of
users.
ours.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So again,
Mm-hmm.
if you give StreamYard permission, next time we can always see who you are, and
Yes,
we can make it personal. So thank you again for
yes,
being here,
yes. We
and we
can
truly
highlight
appreciate
you.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
with that said, so I mean, so Goma, any last word? I mean, before I wrap things up.
No, I think I do. I do appreciate you all being on. I do want to say part of the reason why we do 30 minutes, sometimes a little more, is because
Yeah.
Kingsley and I are both seeing clients. So we're doing this
Yes.
in between. I have a client after here, and we're making the best out of this. So
Exactly.
Join us every Monday at 6 p.m. and we'll be here talking about, and drop us questions too that we can discuss, by the way.
Very good.
He's reading questions from another site that people have sent to
Right.
him. So send us questions. If you are a little embarrassed to put it on here, inbox the questions to us,
Right.
and then we'll go ahead and discuss those questions.
Awesome. Amen. And
All
we will
right.
make you remain anonymous. So thank you for guys for being
Yes.
here. God bless you. We'll see you next time at same time, same place.
See you soon, Kingsley.
Bye bye.
Bye.